All right, so for all the people who don't want to watch the entire video, there's a lot that happened. So first of all, I recorded 2 episodes. I didn't have any audio, not usable. So I did a recap of what I did. I finished the faction, or not finished, but I did more on the faction system. I also implemented a title screen with my music. And then in this episode, I did some bug fixes. So let's fire it up. First thing you're going to notice is that we have a title screen with our track that we made a few episodes ago. And I've got like some working buttons and stuff that make noise. If I hit start, I made it so we have 200 ships. And if I click a ship, you know, I fight it like normal. That's how it was before. Perfectly fine. I also changed the shields to not be oval anymore. I just wanted a round shield. So I did that. And that's working okay. So let me blast this guy. I implemented sounds for when shields go down. So in a second, you're going to hear my shields start recharging. There we go. So now my shields are now recharging. And then the big thing that I did for the faction system is if I hit F5 and I hit my special key I programmed called G, which is get it on, everybody starts fighting. And so what's happening is I have faction dudes fighting faction bros. And they're just going at it. So that's what all this is. Right now I'm getting a rule. I don't think I have any of my guys left. Okay, there they are. I've got some guys. What's up, everybody? Axe Wizard here, back with working on my game some more. Now, I've got a problem. I actually recorded 2 episodes. I've got like the raw footage for episode 29 and 30 here. But the problem is when we watch this stuff, there's no sound. My microphone just stopped working. So I've got 2 episodes that I recorded back to back with no sound. So I've thought about how to handle it. Initially, I tried editing those to maybe I would just like put a text on the screen of like what I was thinking at the time. But since I'm already typing code, it's like you're reading 2 things of text. And plus it's like if it's just a soundless video, like I got to put some music in there. Well, I don't have any of my music long enough that would be, you know, good to put on like an hour-long video. So it's just, I'm just going to recap you on what I've done, and then I'll learn from my mistake and always check my audio. Speaking of which, is my audio working? Yes, it is. Yay. So episode 29, I was working more on, or I guess this is going to be episode 29, but when I originally recorded for episode 29, I was working on faction system stuff some more. And what I ended up doing, let me just zoom in more on this so we can actually see stuff. So it's F8. There we go. So for the faction system, I'm going to close all but this. So let's go to my scripts and we'll go to SCR faction control. So one of the changes I made was on my initialized factions, I included faction none because I ran into a bug where some of the code I was writing, like I was setting it to faction none and it was checking for these things here and it didn't have those. So I'm trying to remember, I added this ship IDs stuff, and I think how I have it right now is so that anytime a ship is created to a faction, it adds the ID of that instance to the faction's ship IDs. And that makes it a lot easier, so I don't have to like iterate through every instance. I can just check that array. So if so I also made this function to set enemy list by faction. So what that does is that I can basically, you know, set up the ship's enemy tracking systems, I can populate their enemies based on just the factions in the system. So, like, I'll have a bunch of factions in the game, and if two factions are warring, as soon as you zone into the system, if they're at war, they should like the ship enemy lists should be updated, and they should start attacking each other. So I did that, and then I also made some tweaks to my enemy tracking control. So this SCR add enemies, I tweaked this to just take in target ID 1 and target ID 2, because before it was just taking in something like enemy ID, and then it was just using the ID of the calling instance. And this way I made it so I can specify other IDs specifically for my faction code to work with. So and I was able to test out that the faction declare war works and all that stuff, and I haven't tested faction form alliance and all that stuff yet, but I've got it to where they're throwing down. So yeah, an object controller, I think it was object controller. No, it was on OBJ ship. OBJ ship. In the step event, I added another debug mode button. So down here I put testing a war. And if I just press G to get it on, we run this SCR faction declare war between faction bros and faction dudes. And then after we declare that war, then we work on populating the enemy lists. So once I hit G, all the ships start like attacking each other. And then what I did because I couldn't tell who was who, a quick and dirty solution is that, let's see, where was it? Yeah, I made a draw event on the ship so that if you're a player, it basically goes and draws like a red box around all of the enemies so that you can tell who you're supposed to be attacking. Now, it's not the final thing. That was just a quick and dirty thing I did to make that happen. But in this code, I'm just getting the size of the sprite, the largest dimension of it, and then I'm just setting where the X and Y for that, and then I'm just drawing the rectangle red. That's all I'm doing. So I did that. That was a lot of episode 29. Or originally episode 29. So, and then when I was recording what was going to be episode 30, I started working on a title screen. So I threw together like some UI stuff, and it was really rough, and I made a title screen. So how I did that was I created a room called rm_title screen, and in that room I just put my object controller. So I moved my object controller from my original room where all the testing and stuff was, and I moved that to room title screen. And then with the object controller, I made a bunch of changes there. So in the room start event, I made it start playing our sweet soundtrack that we made. I made that priority 100 because it's the most important thing. I've got like a to-do here to determine some resolution. And then I'm basically manually calculating where I'm going to place these buttons. I made a object title screen button. And all this has is it just has a display text variable. And I made a variable called onClick, and I set it to be a function. And so what's happening is that when my object controller goes to create these buttons, I'm setting what the display text is, and I'm also setting what it does when you click on it. So I'm setting the onClick to a function that takes me to, room go to, and then it goes to my other room. So GameMaker doesn't have like a built-in UI system like Godot does or some of the other engines, and so I'm basically drawing all the UI, or not drawing it, but I'm creating all the UI elements as like objects and just placing them where I want to. And that's a short-term solution. I need to figure out, first of all, determine like resolution and offer support, because right now I'm just doing everything like 1920 by 1080p, but that's not going to suit everyone's system. Some people might have a big ass 4K monitor. Some people might be playing on some old ass computer that's running 1024 by 768 or something like that on one of those old CRT monitors. Who knows? So I need to be able to handle that, and then that also means dynamically handling where the UI and stuff is placed. So since GameMaker doesn't have a UI solution really, they have a draw GUI event, but every time I've used that in the past, I always run into problems, and that just might be my own ignorance of it. Granted, that was many years ago that I tried it. Maybe I wasn't that good of a programmer then to really know what it was doing. So I might have to take another look at that, but that's where I left off. So now that I've done the boring stuff and I've explained it to you, let me show you what I was able to accomplish in those episodes. So if I hit play, it's going to pop up with our title screen. And I had a name for the game, and I'm just not confident in it. So I just put to do title here, and I don't know how that text is going to look. But I've got buttons that make sounds when you mouse over them and when you click on them. So if you exit, it actually exits the game. Yay! You can see that here, like button exit, the on click is just game end. And then button options doesn't do anything yet. I don't have a options screen or anything yet. So let's start it again, and let's actually go to the room. There you go. So it takes us back into, similar to where we left off. I also randomized the direction that everyone's facing, so not everyone's facing to the right anymore. So same thing as before, like if I click on a ship that's an enemy, that was a lucky guess, I can fight this guy and only this guy. And yeah, so cool. Now if I press F5, which is my debug mode, and I press G to get it on, bam. And then once they're done, they just don't do anything. They just float. Like, I don't have any code. Their AI is still running the old idle event where it keeps checking for a target, and if it doesn't find one, it just does nothing. So they're literally just kept floating out in space. Like they're not even slowing down. They're just drifting. So yeah, and the other ship turrets are still following my mouse XY, so that's fun. But that's what I was able to accomplish. Now, let's take a look at this Object TS button again here really quick. So, this draw event, I'm basically drawing the button itself. I'm setting our font, which I also made some fonts. So let's go over that. So I made like this font FNT title screen button. I just made this XO2. Let's see. Yeah, so this is these fonts are licensed under the open font license. You can use them in your products and projects, print, digital, commercial, or otherwise. So I was able to just download the font family. I installed it to my PC, and then I had to restart GameMaker in order for it to show up, but I was able to select XO2 from the font list. And then one weird thing I had to do is I had to go into the advanced options here, and the interpreter was defaulted to TrueType V40, and it kept squishing all the characters together. And I couldn't figure out why that was happening until I started just dicking around with some settings, and I was able to just switch it to 35, and magically it worked. So really interesting there. So I imported that font a few times and made like a few different font sizes, because you can't dynamically scale a font very well. I mean, you can scale it a little bit, but it doesn't look right. If you want, font from size 35 or something like that, or like font size 12, you should import that font and save it as a font resource and set it to be that size. That way it renders properly. So, and then I'm just basically calculating where to place the string. So that's just half of the string height, half of the string width. I'm just subtracting those from my current XY to center the text. And I'm just drawing the text. And I'm also rounding it so that we don't get any blurry text if we draw, like, you know, if the X is 0.75 and it's all blurry and stuff because you can't draw pixel perfect with it. That was a problem I ran into. So yeah, that's what I was able to accomplish. I'm sure that there's stuff that I missed. I tried watching the videos and like going over, but I mean, I think I fell asleep halfway through the first one just because there's no sound. It's just, you know, me looking at the screen with a furrowed brow, trying to mentally wrestle with these problems, and then just me typing random crap on the screen that I would later delete or move. And so, yeah, I guess that's the whole series summed up right there. But so let's go over now that we've got caught up. Let's see. So tweaks to enemy, I did that. Faction system, title screen. Okay, so I caught up on the stuff that I made notes to talk about. So I think for this episode, it was originally intended to be a bug fixing episode, but I guess the biggest bug that I'm fixing is the fact that my, you know, hour and a half or 2 hour recording sessions are not usable. So I had to do a quick recap on those instead, which honestly is probably more digestible content, but that wasn't the goal of this series. I wanted everything to be on camera, and I just don't see a feasible way of doing that. So with those 2 episodes that have no sound. So yeah, so now you're caught up. So let's talk about some of the bugs. So we've got visual quirk, missile trails just don't look right. So I tried messing around with that on my own just when I was bored one night. I wasn't able to figure it out. So what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to just remove that entirely. And I think I was looking at Open Game Art. So this is what I was using for the button UI. I was just using this blue, and I sort of made like my own button with it. This is a CC public domain. I don't even have to attribute the creator of it. It's just given freely, so that was cool. But I was looking on Open Game Art for, yeah, it was this one. Fire and smoke, static, and trail. So basically this gives me like a little just trail effect that I think I could probably use. So I think I downloaded that actually. Did I download that? I did. There we go. So I've got like this one here, which is, I don't think I'm going to use that. That seems like a sprite sheet to actually have like the trail. Like if you wanted to extend it or something, and that's not what I'm really looking for there. So I think I'm going to go with this one. So this one here, I think I might just like make this one sprite. How do I want to do this? Because this isn't going to look right either. Like, is this supposed to be like something that you could, you know, make your own particle effects and stuff with, I guess. But I think for now I'm just going to get rid of the missile trail entirely. God, I hate it when it does this. Look, my mouse is in here. That means I want to scroll in this window. If I'm not there, I want to scroll elsewhere. Thank you. So let's just go back up here and close all but this. Let's go to my SCR particle control. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get rid of the missile trail. So we're going to get rid of this. We don't need that. I'm going to get rid of this. And emit explosion, emit thruster particles, emit missile trail particles. We're going to get rid of that. Save. So object projectile, where we are emitting those. we are going to get rid of this. So, save. Okay, so if I run the game now, we won't have cool particle effects with the missile trail, but it won't look weird anymore. So let's start. There we go. You know what? That still looks like a missile to me. So I think we're good there. Cool. This guy's fighting. What? You want a piece of me? I'll just point the turrets the other way so you can't do anything. So the shields look pretty good. I don't know if I like them being a oval. I think I might just make them a circle again. Because, you know, for that really long ship, that looks... It really contorts the sprite and it just doesn't look... It doesn't look good to me. So, I think let's mark this missile trail off our list for now. So, sound audio issue, I'm going to tackle that in a bit. So, let's just do this. We have some shield stuff here. So, we need to tweak the shield damage code. Because what's happening is, if we go to projectile, and when we're colliding with object ship here, what we're doing is we're saying if other shields is greater than damage, then we do the thing where we take the shield. Otherwise, it's just so if our shield has, say, 7 health on it, and a bullet comes and hits it that does 10 damage, it's going to bypass that shield entirely and then deal 10 damage to the ship, rather than what I want it to do, where it's going to absorb that 7 damage and the ship only takes 3 damage. So we have to implement that. So I think we're going to do an else here. And if other shields is greater than damage, else, we're going to say, do we even have any shields at all? If shields is greater than 0, then that means that we have, we can absorb some damage. So what we're going to do is we are going to say var net damage equals, where is it? Damage minus, it's other dot shields. Sorry, other dot shields. Damage equal or minus other dot shields. And then we are going to say, we'll just call this stuff here then. So the sound that we're going to want to play here is we want to play the SND shield down, because we're exhausting the shield. So let's see. So we're going to do deal the net damage to the ship. Actually, no, we're going to want to do that after, but we want to set shields to be 0. We just want to make sure that shields are just wiped out. So we're going to say other.shields equals 0. Because we're already checking if shields is greater than the damage. If it's not, we're just checking if shields is above 0. If it is, we're gonna calculate that net damage, 0 out the shields, and then we're just gonna deal the net damage to the ship. So then we're gonna do, we're gonna say other HP. I'm gonna cut this here. I'm gonna paste this here. I'm gonna set this to be net damage, and then I'm also going to return here just in case. I'm actually going to copy this. because it explains why. There we go. Destroy ourselves. See, we just fully depleted the shield. Play the shield down sound. Okay. Boom. So we've got that. That works fine. I'm going to say this is going to be a higher priority than just, you know, the standard weapon. So I'm going to set this to be 20 because that's a key detail you want to be aware of if shields go down. So, let's see. And yeah, everything else should be fine. So that should work. So just to test, let's run it really quick and see if that works. Start. Let me find somebody to shoot. Alright, I've got a few people shooting at me now. I think it played the sound. Just so much stuff happening. Let me go back. Where's my sounds? Sounds, shield down. I did not hear that played at all. Sound, shield down. Priority 20. Pitch skew. I'm gonna say 0 on the pitch skew. And do not stop playing the previously played sound. So let me just try that again, right? I just want to make sure. So let me go find a little dinky ship to pick on. Here we go. Here's one. Is he on my team though? He is, unfortunately. How about this guy? There we go. There we go. I heard it. Okay, so it is playing. It's just really not noticeable over the shield absorb sound, I think. Yeah, like that's way more noticeable than shield down. So, and then I also wanted to do a sound when shields start recharging again. So if we go back to OBJ ship, step event. So if shield cooldown equals 0, how do I want to handle that? Because if I just set it here, it's gonna like play like every step, and I only want it to play once it starts regenerating after the cooldown. So shield cooldown. Maybe I could put it here. So we're basically subtracting 1 if it's above 0. So there should be a point where it's set to 1, which is above 0. It's going to trigger that shield cooldown, which is going to set it to 0. And this block won't fire anymore. Are we at 0 and ready to recharge yet? And what we can just do is say if shield cooldown equals 0, we are play the recharge sound. So we'll do SCR play sound. We'll do SND shield recharge. Begin recharge. Priority will be 20. No pitch skew, and we're not going to stop playing any previously played sounds. So save. And yeah, I think that should work. So let me run it again. And we'll go here and we'll just pick on some more ships. There we go. So I beat that guy. So now, if we wait, there we go. You can hear our shields are recharging again. So obviously that'll be more noticeable once I get actual UI stuff figured out. And you can see, like, you know, the actual shield recharge go back up. But yeah, let's see how this sounds with everybody fighting each other. All right, cool. So now that's good. I also wanted to test what it would look like if the shield, is this thing even used anymore? Object shield? No, it's not. So I'm gonna get rid of this object that I refactored out. So let's delete object shield. So object ship is controlling the shields. So draw. And this is where we are drawing our shield scale. And we are setting the shield scale in init ship, I believe. Yeah, so this is where we're determining our shield scale. So right now I'm doing a shield X scale and a shield Y scale, because I want to take both the dimensions into account. But what I really want to do is I just want to worry about only one. So before, what I was doing was I was basically doing a ratio of the ship sprite and then the actual the ship sprite and then the actual shield sprite. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to do var, I'm going to say determine greatest dimension. I'm going to say var s1 s2, and what we're going to do is I'm going to say if if x1 is greater than y1, then s1 equals x1, else s1 equals y1. So we're just getting the greatest dimension of the actual ship sprite, and then we already know which one's going to be the greatest dimension here, just looking at the numbers. So it's just going to be y2. So we'll say determine greatest dimension of ship sprite, and I'll say determine greatest dimension of shield sprite. To do, I'm just hard coding this. If this needs to change in the future, do it. So I'm just going to say S2 equals Y2. Not a great way of doing it, but there. So now what we need to do is we need to say shield, I'm just going to say scale, equals, and we're going to do S1 divided by S2. Okay? So we're going to phase this out entirely. I'm going to put a to-do on here. To-do, remove these old variables when no longer in use. So I'm going to save that. Now let's go back to our ship. I'm going to comment these out for now. And I'm going to say shield scale. I'm just going to set this to be 1. Save that. In the draw event, I'm also going to change this to just use shield scale. Save. So I think that this should work now. So if we go and like shoot, the shield should now be a perfect circle. So if I shoot this guy, there we go. See, I think that looks a lot better. There we go. So I wrecked that guy. Let's get him, boys. Well done. There you go. So you hear people's shields starting to recharge now. You know, I wonder if I should make that only player. Like, I should only care if my shield starts recharging. So, let's make that tweak. Where's my OBJ ship? There it is. So we did that in the step event. And we'll say, and, we'll just, I think it's player. Yeah, it is player. There. So now that only plays for me. So cool. So pretty fun there. That's fun. So we did the shield, the sound breaking, the sound for shields breaking and powering up. We also tweaked the shield damage so it takes the full amount. So enemy turrets still follow mouse XY position as opposed to targeting player. Probably need faction system implemented before I can tackle this. So I could probably do that now. So enemy turrets still follow mouse XY position. So let's see what they're doing for that. So let me close all but this. If we go back to our SCR, update weapon slot position and fire weapons, that's a mouthful. Might clean that up eventually, but... So we're going through our weapon slots. And then fire weapon, actually, you know what? No. Oh, right. Here we go. So... Gotcha. So I already got rid of the sector of fire stuff, but we do need to handle if weapon slot, if it's not fixed, if the weapon is not a fixed weapon. So what we're gonna say is are we the player? And what we're going to do is if player, and we're just going to do this, else. So I'm going to say, yes, we are the player. Just aim at the mouse. And then down here, I'm going to say, no, we're not the player. We should aim at the target if we have one. So what I'll do here is I'm just going to say if instance exists, I'm going to say target. And then what we can do here is I'm just going to copy this. Point direction to target.x in target.y. So if I save this, I think that this should work. Let's run it. Listen to my sweet theme song. Start it. Okay, so now only my camera or my turret's working. So if I find one of these guys who's an enemy, I want one of these turret ships. Come on. Which one of you is a bad guy? Come on. Oh, there we go. So I can see his turret is now following me. Which is good. Nice. Cool. So, yeah. Mission accomplished there. That's another one done. So we can get rid of that. And then let's figure out this sound issue. Need to figure out how to stop sound emitted by a specific object. For example, ship thrusters. So, I was doing some thinking on this a while ago, and I think that when you do a sound, I think it's audio, play sound. This returns a sound instance ID, and so what we can do is that we can actually save that to a variable, and then we can just stop that specific sound instance ID rather than all of the sound. So for example, the problem we were having was like ship thrusters. We don't stop every ship thruster from playing, we just stop the ship thruster sound that we played. So I think to handle that, we have to tweak our SCR sound control. And I think that anytime we play a sound, we're going to return return, and I think this is also real is the type that they used. Returns a sound instance ID. What is this? It just takes me to the same thing. But what is this data type though? Like, I'm guessing it's going to be a real. I'm just going to put sound ID, and I'm going to say the instance of the sound. I'm just going to say the sound instance ID. So what we're going to do is we're just going to return here. We're going to say sound ID equals, because audio play sound returns it, and then we will just return sound ID. Okay. And then I guess we'll just return no sound played, just return bogus value. So I think we'll just return -1, so to denote that nothing actually was played. So I think that should work there, and we'll probably have to do that for all of our so play loop sound. We'll do that sound ID. So then we'll do sound ID equals play the sound, and we will return the sound ID. Save. And audio stop sound. So sound resource, so the reason why this is important is because the sound ID that's returned can just be used as the sound resource. So cool. Save. And now we need to make, I'm going to close all but this. And then let's open obj ship again. So I'm going to create some sound variables. So what I will do is specific sound controls, specific sound control variables, and I'll put I'll just say sound thrust equals -1. I'll just say sound thrust ID, okay? And then what I'll do is in the ship event here, during the step event, I think this is where we are handling our movement and stuff. So we're playing this loop sound. So what we can do is we can set that to be our variable, which is sound thrust ID. So we can say SND thrust ID equals play loop sound. And then what we can do here is we can just say, instead of saying ship thrust, we can just say SND thrust ID. And I think that should resolve that issue there. Let's play it and see. So let's start. It's not working. It's not stopping my sound from playing. What a pain. So what I'll do here is I'm gonna put show debug message, and I'm gonna say we started playing a sound. I'm gonna put sound ID, and then I'm gonna say plus string, and we're gonna put sound thrust ID. Okay. So then we're on SCR stop sound. I'm going to put we should stop a sound ID, and I'll put this here as well. So let's save this and run it again. And then in my log here, when I start moving, it's just always set to -1. That's interesting. So my SCR sound control is not working like it should be. Oh, I'm an idiot. Var. I gotta declare the variable there. So var sound ID, return sound ID. Var sound ID, return sound ID. Save. Okay, let's try it now. Nope. But I thought I spammed something up there. So we did get a sound ID for like a second. Sound ID 40,005. So what's going on there? Gotcha. Okay, so it's playing this sound. That makes sense. So basically every moment that this sound is playing, or every moment that I'm pressing the W key, it's running this code. So what we need to do here is we need to actually move this to its own event. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move these. Actually, you know what? No, I'm just going to make a variable because I'm going to have to do this for AI too. So I'm going to make a variable called SND thrust played equals false. And I'm going to set that to be false here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this to be if SND thrust played, I'm going to set to not played. So it's only going to execute this little bit once. Then I'm going to update the sound thrust ID and attempt to play the loop sound. Okay? And then here, I'm going to get rid of this. And I'm going to say if sound thrust played. So that means that we did play the sound. We're going to stop it. Now to make sure that this actually works, we're going to say sound thrust played. It goes back to false. And then over here, actually no, excuse me. Yeah, we're going to set sound thrust played to true. So it's not a real ideal way of handling that, but I think that should work. So let's start it. Okay, so we're back to where we were, where thrust is stopping and starting. So now we need to also make sure that that's working for enemies. So if player, else AI control stuff. So we have to do that for AI control. So SCR AI control. So they're doing their thruster particles. So what we can do here is if sound thrust played, if it's not played, we just do a similar thing here. Come on. So remember, we have to say this to sound ship thrust, or no, it's just sound thrust ID. Sound thrust played equals true. Okay. And I don't think there's anything stopping that, is there? Yeah, so this is the only time they're emitting the thruster particles. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this and back to our idle. Ensure variables are reset. Ensure we're not playing any lingering looped sounds. So what I'll do here is I'm going to say we need to switch this logic. False. If sound thrust played, then we need to do SCR stop sound. And we're going to do SND thrust ID. Save. So now if we run this and we do our F5 and then hit G to get it on, it's kind of hard to tell because they're currently too busy shooting at everybody. But they're definitely thrusting though. Ow! Stop it! Little bastards! Yay! Good job, team! Oh, that guy's booking it. Yeah. Okay, unfortunately, I still hear sound of someone accelerating, but no one's actually accelerating. Is the problem. So, that tells me that something is wrong. That's a weird bug. I don't know why that's not working. Because when we're going back to stay idle, which is like the home base for everything, so anytime we set it to false, we're also stopping the sound. And the only time that we're updating that sound thrust ID is if played hasn't already been played. I don't know. But I think we're getting closer. The other thing I noticed is like I don't know if let's go to object projectile here. So for the shield absorb, I think it's only able to play so much of that sound. I'm probably going to have to set this to true, which might not sound good. And I think ship impact should also be set to true. So let's just see how this sounds now. Because it might have been a problem to where it might have got lost in the priority queue as well. Oh wow, that sounds awful. Okay, now it's sounding a little bit more reasonable. That's a lot of dudes after me, man. Get 'em, boys. Yeah, light 'em up. Nice. Okay, so that thruster sound is still playing. So I think what's happening is that this is why, so all the ship impact stuff, all that, I'm going to set this to be false again. I'm going to set this priority, you know, ship impact, I think should be like 11. And I think shield impacts, I think those, actually ship impact should be probably more. And then shield absorb. Where's that at? Shield absorb, I think should be a little greater than, you know, shooting projectiles. So, and then let me just make sure that projectiles are being shot. Yeah. Play, attack sound, priority 10. Okay. And then in the AI, where is it? AI control. We're also playing that at 10, which shares the same priority with all the other sounds. So there's just so many weapons being fired that I think that this probably deserves a higher priority queue, and I think that that might solve our problem. So let's try it out. F5, get it on. Nope, it's still playing. I don't know why it's still playing. I don't get it. Emit thruster particles. If sound is not played yet, then play the sound. Update our sound thrust ID. SDR play loop sound. And then sound thrust played is true. And then in the idle, whenever we go back to that, if sound thrust is actually played, then SCR stop sound. Sound thrust ID. Sound thrust played equals false. I don't get it. I don't know what's wrong with it. So I'll have to add that something to look at. Yeah, I don't see a clean way with that many ships going on. I don't see a really clean way of, you know, having the priority 10 sound effects. Because think about it, we have in object controller when the room starts, we are spawning 50 ships, and every ship is going to have like 2 to 6 weapons. So you're looking at anywhere between 100 to 300 weapons, all shooting like several times a second. And I think there's only so many audio channels that the game has access to that's determined by hardware. So what if we just downsize this to, I don't know, like 20 ships? So let's do this and then run it and then see if it sounds any better. Play. F5, get it on. No. Still sounds like crap. Yeah, it sounds alright. Like, once you get... I think for normal gameplay, it's gonna sound okay. Little dinky ships, guys. Oh, there's 2 of them over here. I got you. So yeah, the ship thrust sound is still being played. So I haven't fixed that bug. I don't know what to do. All right. So for all the people who don't want to watch the entire video, there's a lot that happened. So first of all, I recorded 2 episodes that didn't have any audio, not usable. So I did a recap of what I did. I finished the faction, or not finished, but I did more on the faction system. I also implemented a title screen with my music. And then in this episode, I did some bug fixes. So let's fire it up. The first thing you're going to notice is that we have a title screen with our track that we made a few episodes ago. And I've got like some working buttons and stuff that make noise. If I hit start, I made it so we have 200 ships. And if I click a ship, you know, I fight it like normal. That's how it was before. Perfectly fine. I also changed the shields to not be oval anymore. I just wanted a round shield. So I did that. And that's working okay. So let me blast this guy. I implemented sounds for when shields go down. So in a second, you're going to hear my shields start recharging. There we go. So now my shields are now recharging. And then the big thing that I did for the faction system is if I hit F5 and I hit my special key I programmed called G, which is get it on, everybody starts fighting. And so what's happening is I have faction dudes fighting faction bros, and they're just going at it. So that's what all this is. Right now I'm getting obliterated. I don't think I have any of my guys left. Okay, there they are. I've got some guys. But not enough. Holy cow, I am outnumbered. had a bug in my shield code because it was playing the like the shield down sound up on top. So let's investigate that really quick. So OBJ ship, sorry. So in the step event, so what we're doing is if our shield cooldown is above 0, then we go down and we start playing our recharge. And it seems like maybe our shields are recharging randomly. Because what I saw happening is that sometimes... So let's go to OBJ projectile again. So, we are setting the shield cooldown. And then we should also set the shield cooldown here as well. And then we should also set it to when we take damage as well. Because we don't want our shields recharging until we haven't taken like any damage. So I think that's what was going on there. So let's just fire it up again one last time. Why not? Start, F5, G, get it on. There we go. So shields are going down. That's good. Very nice. Oh my god. I'm being obliterated, man. It seems like it's working better, though. You know, if I'm going to be getting my ass kicked like that, I kind of want it to be even matched, like evenly matched. So let's go back up to OBJ controller here. And in room start, when we start spawning a bunch of ships, let's say var bros equals, I'm going to say false. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say var f for faction. And I'm going to say, not font, get out of here, F. If bros, I'm going to say F equals faction bros. And I'm going to say bros equals false. And then I'm going to say else. Basically, I just want to alternate factions. F equals faction dudes. Not dids, dudes. And bros equals true. Okay. And then what we're going to do here is for the faction, we're not going to do a choose anymore. We're just going to say F. Bam. Save. And then for my ship, I'm going to do ship 6 so I can be a big mega badass ship. Now let's try it. So we should be more evenly matched. So start, F5G, get it on. There we go. We got everybody still down. My shields are still doing good. Well, better. Nah, they're not doing good at all. There we go. Now we're rocket fools, man. Oh, hey, and the thruster sound stopped. I don't know why it started working again. Weird. I fixed it, nailed it. Obviously, I knew what I was doing. Good, go me, man. I'm amazing. So yeah, there we go. We did the thing. Cool. Anyway, I'm gonna stop it there. But thank you all so much for watching, and I'm sorry that what meant to be episodes 29 and 30 became unusable, so I hope I got you up to speed on what I did. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.